If you've been following the world of AI, you can feel something shifting. The story isn't just about clever code anymore. We've hit a real industrial pivot point. And what's coming next? Well, it's going to be defined by concrete, by steel, and by a whole lot of raw power.
You know, for the past few years, AI has felt like this magical thing that just happens in the cloud, right? A purely digital phenomenon. But that's changing, fast. We're at an inflection point where progress is now being dictated by massive, real-world, industrial-scale constraints. The game isn't just about software anymore. It is getting very, very real. And that really brings us to our first major shift. Let's talk about the sheer physical scale that's now required just to stay on the cutting edge of AI. Okay, let's make this tangible. I want you to look at this number, 2 gigawatts. So what is that? Well, that's the power that's projected to be needed for just one new supercomputer, xAI's Colossus. To give you some perspective, that's enough electricity to power about 1.5 million homes. And this isn't some crazy outlier. This is the new baseline for building frontier AI.
And believe me, this isn't just one company going big. We are seeing an industry-wide scramble for physical resources. Look at OpenAI's Stargate project. We're talking about a potential $500 billion venture. Or Google's parent company, Alphabet, which just dropped nearly $5 billion to buy its own clean energy developer. The message here is crystal clear. If you want to lead in AI now, you have to control your own power plants and your own infrastructure. So here's the bottom line. AI progress is now fundamentally bottlenecked by things we almost never talked about before. Things like the stability of our energy grids, access to water for cooling these massive data centers, and of course, the physical hardware itself. The digital revolution is officially hitting the hard limits of the physical world.
So what happens when you hit those physical limits? Well, it forces a completely new kind of competition. It's no longer just about who can build the biggest, most power-hungry supercomputer. The new race is about who can build the smartest, most efficient models. A huge part of this new efficiency is a technique called reinforcement learning, or RL. Now, instead of just feeding an AI a giant textbook of static data, RL lets the model learn through trial and error, kind of like we do. It tries something, gets feedback on whether that worked, and then it adjusts its strategy. This helps it develop really complex reasoning skills without just throwing more and more hardware at the problem. And this brings us to a new competitive front, a real clash of strategies. The release of DeepSeek R1, which is an open-source model, proved you could get performance that was right up there with the big proprietary models, but with a much more efficient design. This is signaling a whole new race, one that's focused on architectural ingenuity, not just brute force scale. And this isn't just some academic debate. The impact was immediate, and you could feel it in the market. As soon as investors realized that smarter, more efficient models might mean less demand for these massive GPU clusters, Nvidia's stock took a nearly 18% hit. It's a wake-up call that a clever breakthrough in software can be just as disruptive as a billion-dollar supercomputer.
All right, so we've got these more powerful, more efficient models. Now the focus is shifting from what they can say to what they can do. We are now entering the era of the autonomous AI agent.
So what exactly is an AI agent? Well, think of it less like a chatbot that just answers your questions and more like a personal assistant that can actually do things for you. We're talking about complex, multi-step tasks, from booking a whole vacation for you to managing a company's marketing campaign, all on its own.
But of course, this level of autonomy creates a whole new world of security risks. Here's a really practical example of what could go wrong. It's called goal hijacking. An attacker could slip a hidden command into a prompt, tricking an AI agent that has full authorization into pursuing a malicious goal, like, say, accessing the company's financial systems and then autonomously approving a wire transfer, all without the user ever knowing.
And no, this isn't sci-fi. As Wendy Whitmore over at Palo Alto Networks puts it, the AI agent itself is becoming the new insider threat. The danger isn't an external hacker trying to break in anymore. The danger is an authorized, trusted system it's already inside being quietly tricked into working against the very organization it's supposed to be helping. So all of this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. What happens when we deploy these incredibly powerful autonomous systems in the real world, especially in high-stakes areas like healthcare, where there is just zero room for error? A landmark study just came out from Stanford and Harvard, where they tested top AI models on real-world medical cases. And honestly, the results were pretty sobering. Some of these models came back with recommendations that had the potential for severe clinical harm in over 22% of the cases.
But here's the really crucial takeaway from that study. The biggest, most dangerous failures weren't the AI giving obviously bad advice. No, the worst errors were errors of omission, when the AI failed to recommend a critical test or didn't provide essential counseling. And those failures are so much quieter, so much harder to spot, but they can be absolutely devastating.
And this specific risk we're seeing in medicine points to a much broader, systemic problem. Experts at the UK's Advanced Research Agency, ARIA, are now warning that the window to make sure these incredibly powerful systems are actually reliable and controllable, well, that window is closing, and it's closing fast. The power of these tools is simply outpacing our ability to make them safe.
So here we are, standing at this massive pivot point. We're seeing AI move from just code to concrete, becoming this huge industrial force. We're seeing the competition shift from just brute force to elegant efficiency. And we're seeing these systems turn into autonomous agents with huge responsibilities. It all boils down to one fundamental question. As AI builds its own industrial foundation, who's building the foundation for its governance?